The morning after the call, I woke to the kind of silence that makes you feel washed. The city outside my window buzzed and screamed like it always did, but inside my apartment everything was too still. I'd pinned the photograph of Claire and the mystery man to my wall. It stared back at me while the coffee burned in the pot. Old habits die slow. I opened my notebook, drew 3 columns: who, what, why. Under who, I wrote one name, Claire Bennett. Under what, I wrote, missing, staged accident, burner phone. Under why, just a question mark. I scanned the photo again. Behind the 2 of them was a street sign, blurred but readable if you tilted the image toward the light. 5th Street Deli. I knew that place. It sat 2 blocks from the courthouse, where the city's power brokers grabbed their coffee between bad decisions. By 9 I was parked across from it. The same old Chevy. The same creak in the seat when I shifted my weight. Funny how life circles back to the same stakeouts you swore you'd never do again. An hour passed before I saw him. The man from the photo. Perfect posture, same charcoal suit, same controlled arrogance. He moved like someone who'd already decided the world owed him obedience. He walked into the deli with 2 other security, by the look of them. I snapped a few pictures through the windshield. The nameplate on his briefcase caught a sliver of light. E. Larkin. I didn't know the name, but it sounded expensive. When he came back out, I followed at a distance. He took a right onto Madison, turned into an underground parking lot. I killed the engine and waited. 5 minutes later, he drove out again alone. The guards stayed behind. Odd, guards don't let their boss go solo unless the boss is the danger. That night I did what any washed-up detective does. I dug public records, corporate filings, old contacts who still owed me favors. By 2 I had a partial story. Elias Larkin, CEO of a private investment firm called Vandermeer Holdings. Same company listed on the registration for Claire's burner phone. My wife hadn't been hiding an affair. She'd been hiding a connection. I printed everything I had, spread it across the table. It looked like a spiderweb, and right in the center was her name. I called Morales. She answered on the 2nd ring, tired. Detective, it's Bennett. You ever hear of Vandermeer Holdings? She was quiet a moment. Why? Because they're tied to my wife. I'm going to pretend you didn't just tell me that, she said. But if I were you, I'd stay away. They've been under quiet investigation for laundering campaign money. Big money. The kind that disappears people. She hung up before I could answer. Sleep didn't come easy. Every sound in the apartment felt amplified. The fridge hum, the drip from the faucet, the whisper of tires on wet asphalt. Round 3 I saw headlights pause outside my window, then slide away. Coincidence maybe. Or maybe Larkin already knew I was looking. The next morning, a package sat on my doorstep. No label, no return address. Inside, a flash drive and a note typed in courier font. You're close. She's not who you think. I plug it in anyway. The drive held security footage, grainy video from a warehouse on the docks. Claire, wearing dark clothes, meeting Larkin. They weren't arguing. They were planning. She handed him a folder. He nodded, then hugged her quick, professional. A timestamp blinked in the corner. 2 days before the crash. I rewound the clip again and again until my eyes burned. The folder she gave him had a name scrawled across the front in black marker: Project Harborlight. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I knew where to start. There was only one place in this city where the name Harborlight had ever crossed my desk: an abandoned research facility on Pier 19. Classified contracts. Government hush money. Technology no one was supposed to touch. If Claire had been there, if she'd been working with Larkin, then she wasn't just missing, she was running from something that scared even her. I loaded my gun, grabbed my coat, and headed for the pier. The rain had started again, soft at first, then harder, drumming on the hood like a countdown. Somewhere out there my wife was still alive, but for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to find her. The night it started, rain was coming down in sheets. The kind of cold, metallic rain that turns every streetlight into a sneer of gold. I was halfway through a bottle of cheap bourbon and an even cheaper evening when the phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, almost. "Mr. Bennett," a woman's voice said. Steady, professional, and scared underneath. "Who's asking?" "This is Detective Morales. I'm calling from the downtown precinct. We need you to come in." I hadn't been near a police station in 5 years. Not since I left the force. Not since everything went sideways. "What's this about?" "It's about your wife." The word hit harder than the bourbon. Wife. Technically, she still was. The papers were sitting unsigned in a drawer somewhere. I hadn't seen her in months. "Is she okay?" I asked. There was a pause. "You'd better come in." An hour later I was standing under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights, the air thick with coffee and disinfectant. Morales met me at the door, sharp suit, tired eyes. She slid a photo across the table. A car crashed under an overpass. My wife's car. "She's not dead," Morales said quickly, reading my face. "But she's missing." The accident looked staged. I stared at the photo. Staged. She nodded. The seatbelt was cut from the inside. No blood, no sign of struggle. Someone wanted it to look like she was gone. I didn't know what to say. The last words I'd ever said to Claire weren't kind ones. "You always hide the truth," I'd told her. I didn't know how right I'd been. Morales folded her arms. "You used to be a detective, right? Maybe you can help me understand why your wife was carrying a burner phone registered to a show company in Delaware." A burner? My throat went dry. "Maybe she was having an affair," I muttered. Morales didn't blink. "Maybe. Or maybe she was working with someone who didn't want her found." By the time I left the precinct, dawn was pushing against the skyline. The rain had stopped, but the city looked worse for it washed out. Exhausted, I went home, pulled open the old desk drawer, and there it was, the envelope Claire had left months ago, edges yellowed from waiting. I tore it open. Inside was a single photograph, her standing beside a man I didn't recognize. Tall, clean-cut, expensive suit. On the back, a single line in her handwriting: "If you ever see him, walk away." But I've never been good at walking away. I poured the last of the bourbon into a glass, stared out at the city, and felt the old instincts waking up, the itch of a mystery, the smell of danger. Somewhere out there my wife was alive, and somewhere close, someone was making sure I didn't find her. Pier 19 had been shut down for years, but the city never forgets its ghosts. The road out there was lined with rusted containers and half-collapsed warehouses, each one tagged with graffiti and history. The kind of place you could scream and no one would bother asking why. The Harborlight facility sat at the end of the pier, a low concrete building with broken windows and a single security light still buzzing like it hadn't gotten the memo. I parked a block away, grabbed my flashlight, and walked the rest of the way in silence. Every step echoed against the wet asphalt. The front door was chained, but the side entrance wasn't. Someone had cut it recently, fresh edges, clean metal. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The air smelled like salt and dust, papers littered the floor, water dripping through the ceiling into shallow puddles. I moved slowly, flashlight sweeping across file cabinets, rusted lab tables, and walls covered in faded safety notices. Then I saw it, a whiteboard still hanging on one wall. Words scrawled in red marker: Harborlight, active until 2019. Below that, a list of code names, each one crossed out except for the last, Claire Bennett. My heart kicked hard. I snapped a photo with my phone. If this was her project, it wasn't some side hustle or affair. It was something bigger. There was a noise behind me, faint, deliberate. I turned off the flashlight and crouched. Footsteps, two sets, coming closer. They weren't trying to hide. "Check the east wing," a voice said. Male, clipped, professional. Security. Not cops, not squatters. Someone had followed me here. I waited until the beam of their flashlight passed, then slipped through the far hallway. My old instincts took over, quiet steps, shallow breathing, always two exits in mind. I found one, a loading door half open to the night. I was almost through when something caught my eye. A desk, still powered, small blue light blinking. Against all reason, I went to it. A single folder sat on the desktop labeled Project Overview. I clicked it open. Lines of text filled the screen, government seals, confidentiality warnings, technical jargon. But one sentence stopped me cold. Primary objective: development of predictive behavioral algorithms for civilian surveillance, subcontracted through Vandermeer Holdings. Vandermeer again, Larkin's company. Claire hadn't just been working with them, she'd been part of them. I copied the files onto a spare drive I carried. Old habits. Then the noise came again. "Closer this time," a voice shouted. "He's in here." I ran. Bullets punched through the air as I dove through the loading door and into the rain. I didn't stop to look back. Tires squealed somewhere behind me, headlights cutting through the mist. I hit the docks, turned a corner, and jumped into the water. Cold shock tore the breath from my chest. I surfaced once, twice, until I reached the next pier down and pulled myself out coughing. The men with flashlights were still searching. But they didn't see me. When I finally made it back to the car, soaked and shaking, I started laughing, not because anything was funny, but because the puzzle had just flipped on me completely. Claire wasn't a victim. She was a ghost in a machine, and I was the fool still chasing her shadow. Back at my apartment, I loaded the drive into my laptop. The files confirmed it all. Vandermeer was funding Harborlight, and Claire was their lead analyst. They weren't tracking criminals or suspects. They were tracking everyone, predicting behavior, selling data to anyone who could pay for control. And then, buried deep in the files, I found one labeled Bennett_override. It was a list of surveillance subjects, me at the top. I stared at my own name till the screen blurred. She'd been watching me. Every move, every call, even after we split. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. "Mr. Bennett." A calm voice said, "You shouldn't have gone to Pier 19. Who is this? Someone trying to keep you alive. If you want answers, come to the old Union Hotel, room 412, midnight, and come alone." The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, dripping water onto the floor, the city's lights flickering through the blinds. I could still taste the salt from the harbor. If it was her, I'd finally see her face again. If it wasn't, well, maybe that would be simpler. Either way, midnight was coming. The Union Hotel sat on the edge of downtown, half forgotten and half condemned, a relic from when the city still cared about style. Now it was all cracked marble floors and neon signs that flickered like dying stars. Perfect place for ghosts and bad decisions. I got there 10 minutes early, the kind of early that only comes from fear disguised as professionalism. The night air was thick with humidity, the streets slick from another round of rain. My gun sat heavy inside my coat. I told myself it was just for comfort. The lobby was empty except for a man at the front desk pretending not to see me. The elevator didn't work, so I took the stairs. Each step creaked like it was tattling. By the time I reached the 4th floor, my heartbeat was louder than my footsteps. Room 412, the number hung crooked on the door. I listened first, nothing but the hum of the hallway lights. Then I turned the knob. Inside, the air was stale, the curtains drawn tight. A lamp flickered on a table beside the bed, and beside it, a laptop. No one in sight. "Hello?" I called softly. No answer. I moved closer, every muscle tight. The laptop screen glowed to life on its own. A video window opened, static, then focus. Claire's face filled the frame. "Danny," she said. My name hit me like a punch. She looked tired, older, but still her. "If you're seeing this, it means I couldn't reach you in time." I sat down slowly. "I didn't lie to you about everything," she continued. Vandermeer wasn't just a company. They were contracted to test a new system, something that could predict crime before it happened. before people even thought about it. Harborlight was built on that idea, but it got twisted. They started using it to control people, not protect them. She glanced off screen, nervous. I tried to stop them. Larkin found out. The crash wasn't a warning, it was a reset. They were erasing me. If I disappear completely, don't come looking, please. It's safer if you let me go. The video cut to black. For a long time, I just sat there listening to the sound of the rain through the walls. Then the door clicked open behind me. I turned fast. A man stepped in, the same suit, the same clean-cut face from the photo. Elias Larkin. You really should have listened to her, he said. His tone was calm, conversational, like we were old friends discussing bad investments. What did you do to her? He smiled faintly. She made choices. I made mine. That's how the world works. I kept my hand near the gun but didn't draw it. You built Harborlight to control people. Not control, he said. Predict, guide. The world runs smoother when people stop making dangerous choices. And who decides what's dangerous? He looked right at me. People like me. People who understand patterns. You were part of hers, Daniel? That's why you were monitored. You made her unpredictable. That word again, unpredictable. Like it was a crime. I took a step forward. Where is she now? She's gone, he said. And if you're smart, you'll accept that. Walk away before this city forgets your name too. He moved for the door, calm as ever. I could have stopped him. Could have drawn the gun and ended it there. But the truth was heavier than the trigger. Killing him wouldn't bring her back, and it wouldn't erase what she'd done. So I let him go. When I finally left the hotel, dawn was breaking over the skyline. The city looked almost peaceful, like it hadn't just confessed its sins. I walked until I reached the river and sat on the same bench where Claire and I used to argue about the future. I pulled out the drive from Harborlight and stared at it. All that power, all that corruption, reduced to a thumb-sized piece of plastic. I should have handed it to Morales, or the press, or anyone brave enough to use it. Instead, I tossed it into the water and watched the ripples spread until they disappeared. Some truths aren't meant to be kept, but as I stood to leave, my phone buzzed. One new message from a blocked number. You did the right thing. See, I read it 3 times before the screen dimmed. She was alive. Somewhere out there, still running, still watching. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally understood. Some love stories don't end with forgiveness. They end with silence. 6 months have passed since the Union Hotel. 6 months since I watched the river swallow the last piece of Harborlight. You'd think the city would have changed, that maybe all those secrets washed out with the current. But cities don't forget. They just grow new shadows. I left downtown not long after that night, sold the apartment, boxed up what was left of my life, and drove west until the skyline disappeared in my rearview mirror. I found a small town in Oregon, rainy, quiet, the kind of place where nobody asks questions. I told people my name was Dan Harper. They believed me. Everyone here believes what they want to believe. Sometimes, when the fog rolls in from the coast, I sit by the window and listen to the gulls. The sound almost drowns out the memories, but not quite. I still dream of Claire. Not the way she was at the end, haunted and running, but how she looked the first time I met her. That impossible mix of confidence and kindness. The woman who believed she could fix the world one data point at a time. Maybe she's still out there. Maybe she's gone for good. I've stopped trying to guess. Last week, a letter arrived. No return address, of course. Inside, a single photograph. A street market somewhere overseas, crowded, sunlit, alive. And in the corner of the frame, just barely visible, a woman in a red scarf turning toward the camera. Her face half hidden, but I knew it was her. On the back, a line written in the same careful handwriting I'd seen 100 times before. Some systems can't be shut down, but some can learn to hide. No signature. None needed. I burned the photo that night, not out of anger, but because keeping it would have meant starting over again, digging, searching, unraveling. And I've done enough of that for one lifetime. Every now and then, I still get calls from Morales. She says Harborlight's name is showing up again, in different forms, new shell companies, new investors. The ghost refuses to die. She asks if I'll help her chase it. I tell her no. I've spent too many years chasing things that don't want to be found, but sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattles the old windows and the world feels too quiet, I take out a notebook and draw 3 columns. Who, what, why? I never write anything under who anymore. Just leave it blank. Some mysteries aren't meant to have names. The truth didn't set me free, it just gave me peace with not knowing. And in this world, that's the best any of us can hope for. I lock the door, pour a drink, and let the rain tap against the roof until morning. Somewhere out there, Claire is still running her algorithms, still rewriting the story, still making the world turn her way. And me, I'm just another forgotten name in her data. But for the first time, that doesn't bother me. Because love, in the end, isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let the world move without you.